Hello. Welcome to the first ever video of the Warrant Warlock. That's me, the Warrant Warlock. We're going to talk about warrants today. I love trading, and we're in a risk-on environment right now. And warrants, basically, I like to think of them as giving you more leverage, right? Lots of times these warrants are for up-and-coming stocks, these companies that are just getting going, not really profitable yet. So they are pretty risky, but sometimes we can scoop up some really good deals. So this channel, I'm going to do some daily reports, some deep dives about certain stocks, and we're going to have a good time. So if you like trading warrants, you want to learn some more, you want to contribute to the discussion, then glad you're here. Hit subscribe, leave me a comment, leave us a like. I'm not sure if anyone's really going to be watching these, but I bought the shirt, I got the hat. I even actually got this projector thing for some cool backlighting, but it didn't work. It didn't even turn on, so just doing it in the light here, which is not really a good Warlock setting, but I figured I got the hat and everything, so I wanted to at least get this going. Okay, so we're going to start off by talking about today, the market today, right? Kind of choppy. You can see it really only ended up 0.1%, so almost a nothing move. It came out of the gate hot and then just took a nosedive, slowly climbed up, and then right at the end of the day took a nosedive. Alright, so 0.1%. I kind of like to go off the Nasdaq because that usually goes up the most of the three, but these three kind of give you an overall idea of how the market did today. Alright, some big stocks. Nvidia, I know Tesla had earnings. Apparently it didn't go well because it kind of tanked today. Nasdaq did 0.1%. My portfolio did 0.67%, so we're beating the market. That's what we like to see. Can't have huge wins every day, but as long as we can beat the market, that's kind of what I'm going for. Alright, so now let's get into individual stocks. Who were the big winners and losers today? So, LIDR, this company, AEYE, which, man, can you think of a dumber, more confusing name for a company? AEYE, AI. Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking, but I really do like these automotive sensing technology companies. LIDR is one of them. And man, this was trading at 6 to 7 cents, these warrants, for the past, months. Literally 6 months. Then it started popping a little bit. Down under 6 10 days ago. And I actually got a bunch of these at an average price of 6.5. So today was a pretty nice gain. Gapped up massively. We're looking at 4x here. Came down. You can see this huge wick down. But it actually climbed back up to close back up here at 25. So congrats to LIDR. If you're looking to get in, might be a little dangerous getting in at 25. Put some limit orders, I would say, to get in somewhere between here. But I think this is going to be a good stock for a long time. Next we got Valens Semiconductors. I mean, with robotics, AI, blockchain, all this stuff coming out, it's really hard to be bearish on semiconductors. Obviously they're no Nvidia, right? They're a smaller guy. I'm not really sure what their key differentiator value add is, but apparently the market likes it because it gapped up crazy today and kept going. So, balance. Next up, we got Syntec Optics, OPTX. And this one, 20% today, these warrants. Been buying these little by little in this range. Got some limit orders in. That had a nice pop today. And now, we got one more that did well. This is the Metals Company. This is some really interesting company that does some deep sea mining. Apparently there's just balls of metal ore at the bottom of the ocean that we can use for electronics, cell phones, stuff like that. And this company is going down there and grabbing them. I did watch some documentaries, and you really gotta watch out what you're doing to the environment when you have crazy shit like this going on. But the warrants, man, it's hard to not want to be in these warrants when they seem like they're just stair-stepping up. So that's pretty good. All-time highs these are at, so I would be careful, DCA in, maybe buy some, spread it out over time. And of course, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just some random asshole, so it's up to you what you're betting your money on. But these are just some ideas of companies to keep on your radar. Okay, now we're going to look at the biggest losers today. WeBull, trading platform. You can see these warrants here having a good run, right? From the 50 cents, $1, $2, $3, $4. These are up to $6, $7, $8. Really dropped 15% today. It looks like they released their second quarter results and it wasn't too hot. But again, this has just been climbing so steady that might be a good buy the dip opportunity on these. Another one, what I think is a pretty good company, Paladine, industrial machinery, doing some really crazy stuff, making some interesting robotics, really useful. They're down to 37 cents from the almost 60 cents that it was a few days ago. So, possibly a dip opportunity here. Okay. Next we got Waldencast. They own milk makeup, like girls makeup. And apparently they're expanding a lot all over the world. People really like their products. So the warrants have been kind of just trailing down, trailing, to the point where they're at 7 cents now. Let's see, the stock itself is frozen. The stock itself is frozen, I guess. Alright, well, we're just gonna move on, but yeah, I'm expecting big things from this. Eventually they're gonna have some good quarter that's gonna really help them. Looks like their next earning is in 25 days. So we'll see. I know makeup is not like a super crazy technological advancement, right? How much are they really going to innovate here? How much opportunity do they have to really uncover some crazy, massive revenue opportunity? I feel like some of these other companies are maybe better suited for that, but who knows, one good news story, and this 7-cent warrant could pop to anything, and you're getting at least 1x, 2x, 3x, which is hundreds of percent. So it's not one to write off, I don't think. Moving on, Chipotle. This is not a warrant, right? CMG, massive stock. They don't have warrants, and that's the thing. Warrants are for companies that went public but still need more money. You know what I mean? Like, successful, profitable companies don't need to issue warrants. And so it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you're not going to have these opportunities for these giant companies, but at the same time, they're already massive, right? So you're not going to get the big percentage gains. It's much easier for something to go from a micro cap to a small cap than it is to go from a mega cap to a super ultra mega cap, right? But if we just look at this, Chipotle's been alright. Kind of going down to April, right? But it's been trading around this like 50-60 range all year. But today, look at this red candle down here. Man, it just dropped 13% down to 45. And I got this article up here about why. And basically, they missed on revenue. The revenue's lower. And they're kind of blaming the macro economy, right? Chipotle is really geared to that middle class consumer who, when you get guac and sour cream, your bowl ends up being like $20, then they've been slowly increasing prices over time. And in this macro environment, we have Trump with the big bill basically taking money from the poor middle class, giving it to the rich, right? So these companies that really cater to the middle class are going to get squeezed, I think. I mean, that's just my prediction, but things like Chipotle, things that really go for the middle class, I would be pretty careful about going into now. In this risk-on world, it's mostly, in my opinion, risk-on for crazy technologies, right? And that's quantum, that's these air taxi type stocks, that's LIDR, that's how I'm feeling, right? Really cool tech type things, where they're selling to businesses, they're selling to high-end customers. Those, I think, will be okay for the next year or two, and that's where the money's going, right? So they're going to have money to spend. Okay, this is a honorable mention. Ava's another, I think, really awesome LIDR stock. They have this massive partnership with Daimler Trucking. I actually scooped up some of these at 10 cents back here, and man, when that ripped to 120, that was a nice day, right? 12xer. And I honestly put in some orders at 6.5 cents. They got rejected for some reason, but yeah, that would have been a nice 20 bag to get some at 6 cents and ride it up there. But at the same time, it's been dropping down, right? And it's now at 57 cents. So earnings is in 13 days. I'm thinking if it's still around 60, 50 cents, going into earnings, I'm going to hold it, hoping for a really good earnings report. I don't know how they could do badly on this report when they have so many partnerships really actually rolling out. Their snowballs getting bigger, and I'm expecting a pop for them. At the same time, in the short run, anything can happen. I got some orders to buy at 50 cents, at 40 cents, 30, 20, 10, so I'm bullish on this stock, and I'm willing to buy the dip as low as it goes for this AVA. So let's see what happens. Okay, this is a site that I like, Listing Track IO, the SPACs warrants page, and these will show you different warrants. I like to sort by volume, just to kind of see what's been moving today, what are other people into. Of course, we got this LIDR move 250% today. That one had 2 million in volume. Everyone thinking about AI today. AEYE. Dynamics, this one ripped a good 200% yesterday. Still got huge volume. Lanza has not been on my radar. This is kind of a new one to me, but changed 100%. It's only at 5 cents now, so who knows? If you get a few of these, this could be the next AVA, jumping from 5 cents up to 120. The metals company here, BM Technologies, Bank Mobile, Faraday. Right, these acquisition corps, there might be a strategy here, but personally I don't really like to play these acquisition corps. I like to get in just after they merge, right? So when it's still very, very small market cap, but the company has their own ticker, they kind of got their footing, and they're got a cool business, okay? Valence, Money Hero, Big Bear, all pretty good plays that I'm in. Solid Power, I don't know much about them other than they're some kind of energy company. Hover is a pretty cool one, and Archer, and Joby, I think, is on the next page, maybe? Maybe not. But these are all the eVTOL type of companies, air taxis, sort of drones that people can fly in. Right, we have Rigetti Computing, some quantum things here. Pagaya Technology is another interesting one. Arctic Quantum, Nauticus, D-Wave. These all I think are some interesting companies. They could, obviously all these things are risky. Who knows what's going to happen? Some of them have some weird conversion ratios, right? So KIT is 36 to 1, ARKIT is 25 to 1, which doesn't matter too much, the ARKIT warrants are up at 75 cents, but it's going to be kind of a headwind when you have a big conversion ratio. It's just going to make the warrants go up in price slower than they would otherwise if they were a 1-to-1 ratio. So keep that in mind. Alright, so now I want to talk about this. I have this little spreadsheet here where I have a bunch of warrants, right? I put in their expiration, and then I'm getting a value for the number of years from this. And then I'm putting in the conversion ratio, the strike. I'm getting this from Google Finance, the strike of the current price of the stock. Then I'm getting from Yahoo, don't ask me why, the price of the warrant. Just seemed to be more accurate that way. Then I'm using Tastyworks. Tastyworks is another brokerage platform for trading. they kind of focus more on options, and it makes it really easy to see what's the implied volatility for an option, or the average of a group of options for one expiration cycle. So I have this kind of a low end and a high end because the warrants don't have volatility, right? These are just for options. So I'm kind of going by the closest option based on the strike and time to expiration. Some of these don't even have options, so I had to just do a complete guess, right? And then I'm doing this, the Z value, right? And this comes from basically the Black-Scholes equation, right, for pricing a call option. And I have to get too deep into it, but basically the low end uses this low end IV, and the high end uses the high end IV. So the idea is you get kind of a range of, and then I have D2, which is another value that we use in our Black-Scholes, right? So we can use Black-Scholes to calculate the delta. So this is kind of what I'm thinking the delta of the warrants are, right? So a dollar change in the underlying, this is how much the warrant should change. And then I'm using it to get the Black-Scholes gamma also, because the more gamma, the more opportunity maybe we have for gamma scalping here, which I'll get into that later. And then we can have kind of the price estimate, right? So this is based on the Black-Scholes, what a fair price would be for these warrants. And we're using our high end and low end volatilities for these. And I mean, to be honest, I don't even know if any of these numbers are really fucking accurate. But then this one is basically the price of the warrant from, right, the market divided by the price that I'm thinking it should be worth, right? And so you can see some of these are like very undervalued. Again, I don't know if this is really accurate. This thing trading at 1% of what it should be, that doesn't really seem right. And then I have some of the things down here trading at like 2,000,000% of what it should, right? So something seems off here, but I think it's a good idea to try to do this, and then we can always go in and see, all right, what's undervalued right now? Right, let's get into the undervalued things. For the overvalued things, let's put in some stops, some trailing stops. Let's maybe short the stock. But this is still very early times. I'm hoping to find some other people who are interested in this and want to help me to polish this up and make it really nice, and maybe dynamically pull the IV from somewhere, maybe figure out what's a better way to estimate the volatility for these warrants. Could look at maybe historical volatility, option price volatility, or something else if you guys have other ideas. But and that's that. Okay, so one more little thing I got for you guys. This is a pretty interesting little chart here, right? And so the blue is the option value, right? This is the call value or the warrant value. And over time, that's going to drift towards this light gray, right? So over time, we're getting that theta decay, and it's slowly going towards this. But as the underlying moves, you can see that the option outperforms the delta equivalent position in the underlying for both up moves and down moves. Okay, so see that the stock here, if the price goes up, this black line having shares is a little bit less, right? You're winning on the warrants and you're winning on the shares, but you're winning on the warrants more. Okay, if it goes down, you're losing on the warrants and you're losing on the shares, but you're losing on the shares more. So either way, we're up with the warrants. There's something called gamma scalping, right? Which is where you have a position where you are in exactly the same delta, long warrants or long calls, and then on the other side, you're short shares of that underlying. And as soon as it moves anywhere, you're up, right? Again, the moves have to be more than the theta decay, right? So a lot of people have, they're buying, have a bunch of limit orders to buy below the current price, underlying price, and they have a bunch of orders to sell above the current price. And then as it moves, they refill those gaps, and they're kind of making money from some realized gains from those short shares trading as their warrants fluctuate in value, right? And so your overall P&L is positive, or at least is never too far negative, right? Worst case, nothing happens and you slowly lose the theta decay. But the caveat is that it's very hard to know the exact delta of the warrant, right? And it's based on, market participants, right? Sometimes the stock goes up or the stock goes down, and the warrants, it takes some time to reflect from that. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, even if you don't have a perfect hedge, it could be beneficial to short some shares when you're long warrants, right? The question is how many, and to be honest, I don't really know how to answer that question. It's kind of not really a hard science because, again, we're bullish on these stocks, but we do also want to scalp some gamma, especially in choppy markets. This can give you some green days when you would otherwise just have theta decay. So I think it's nice. I like to have that rather than the extreme fluctuations of your portfolio. So anyway, this has been the first video of the Warrant Warlock. This is July 24th, 2025 on a Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. I'm really excited and I can't wait for the weekend, guys. I know I'm going to be sad that the market's closed and we're not going to be able to trade, but we're in it. So, with that, signing off. This is the Warrant Warlock. Give me a like, subscribe, send me some flowers in the mail, and good luck in the markets.